Hi Engineering Janta, I am Vaibhav Shukla and today we'll understand all about service-based companies. Fine. So after demystifying product-based companies for you, today I'll solve this demystification of service-based companies for you. Fine. So let's understand, let's dive in deep. What are service-based companies? So service-based companies are basically those companies that focus on delivering tailored services to their clients rather than creating a product for mass consumption. Basically, they aren't creating altogether a different product and then rolling it out in market. No. What they're doing is they are easing out the life of their clients, or they are fulfilling the demands or needs of their clients using technology or using some service they provide. Fine. These services can range from IT consulting to software development, often based on the specific needs of the client. Fine. Whatever client demands. For example, client demands a website and there's a company that makes websites, UIs, and they make mobile apps. So that particular company provides a service through which they develop a website for their client. Fine. So that is what usually service-based companies do. Some service-based companies create a few apps or something like that. Fine. So all these companies that provide a service, and that service is tailor-made for particular company or particular client. Fine. So if they're tailoring their services according to them, then it is a service-based company. Fine. Now, if I go ahead, then what are the learning opportunities in service-based companies? A lot. Believe me, a lot. Why am I saying so? Because here specializations would be offered in multiple domains, multiple technologies. Unlike product-based companies, here you'll not be working on a single tech stack. Why am I saying so? Say for example, in one particular project, you are a back-end engineer. Fine. In the next project, you might be playing a role of a front-end engineer or a full-stack engineer where you're working on both tech stacks. Fine. You might be a full-stack engineer and then in some particular project, you might be handling their database. Fine. So you have a hang of overall things. Fine. So this is the benefit of service-based companies. Usually you get exposed to a lot of technologies, you get to work with a lot of technologies, and there is a lot more diversity. Fine, a lot more diversity here. Why am I saying so? The reason is, just consider your client asked you to build a website, which is not very hi-fi website, very normal general website. Fine, you built it in React, JS and things like that. You created front end with the help of Node, you created backend, or you created the backend using any other service and you delivered it. But then a second client comes and he says that I want a scalable website or I want a scalable product in which I can basically change things. Fine. You have a product where you can pitch in microservices. Fine. So in that case, if you're trying and doing that, if you're trying to pitch in microservices, what you can do is you can use Spring Boot. At that point of time, you'll be exposed to Spring Boot framework. So such multiple frameworks are usually exposed to or are usually worked upon when you have client needs. That's why service-based companies are way more ahead. Fine. Now, coming to pay and perks. Pay and perks of service-based companies are decent. Generally, they pay you well, but not as comparable to product-based companies. Also, in service-based companies, sometimes the pay and packages, the growth is usually not very good. Fine. You don't have enormous growth in service-based companies. You don't have ESOPs in service-based companies. You don't have a lot of pipeline growth. Fine. So that's a big challenge here. And I always say that the CTCs usually offered here are not so good. Fine. Not as good as product-based companies, but some service-based companies do pay good. I'm not saying that all of them are not paying good, but usually their packages are slightly on the lower side. Also, the perks that you'll be having here would not be enormous. Fine. You'll not be having the perks that Google offers or some other big company offers. The reason is because the big product-based companies can afford those particular perks, right? Service-based companies do not have that net revenue, that net profit through which they can afford all this. Fine. So what I can tell you is that to start with your career, service-based companies are great, But in the longer run, one should look towards product-based companies, fine, because work culture also is stressed out here, and I'll come to the job security portion, but generally, work culture is stressed out because you have product deadlines, you have particular focus upon how and through which particular method in a limited time you can deliver a project, fine. Sometimes client might change requirements suddenly and you have to update it. Sometimes client might reject things, fine, and sometimes client might offer that you take extra money from me, but you cover it before deadline, or he might not pay you extra but still ask for the coverage of project or the fulfillment of project before the agreed terms, fine. So that's one problem that generally service-based companies face, fine, and that's why a lot of employees feel that there's a pressure that is generally involved in service-based companies, fine. If I go further, then job security is something that one should not be very confident upon in service-based companies. Again, here product-based companies lead because they have that particular niche employee working on a niche skill, fine. So here it is not like that, and if the company is not getting projects, then your job is in risk, fine, because if they are not getting projects, they are not getting money, they might lay off people, as simple as that. And that is why employee attrition rates are very high here. You'll have frequent switches here. Any person who's working in a service-based company doesn't stay more than a year or 1.5 years maximum. After 1 or 2 years they switch, but generally in product-based companies, which are big companies, which are having good decent career growth, which are having a proper trajectory of career, people stay there for a while, for 5, 6, 7 years. I have seen in the last company in which I worked was a product-based company. So in that particular company, I saw employees working since 19 years, 21 years. Just imagine a lot it is when you talk in terms of years, fine, 21, 25 years. It is approximately 1/3 of somebody's functional life, right? So to live that with a single company is a big deal. It clearly says that company must be doing something right, fine. So generally in service-based companies, you don't find such people who can stay for 19 years. Generally people in 1 or 2 years keep on changing, except for the CEO, CTO, etc. Fine. Even the CEOs change very frequently, and usually in service-based companies, you'll find that people will not be much satisfied with the work culture that is usually there. Some organizations are always great, but generally, I'm talking about general trends, fine. So there one needs to work hard, one needs to be under pressure all the time. That's one thing that comes along, fine. So that's pretty much about service-based companies, and if you want to know anything else apart from this, go ahead and post the things in comments and show me in the comments that what exactly do you want to hear from me next, because if your comment is in top 3 comments, then you might stand a chance to win the Prep Insta Prime subscription for free for 3 months. So go ahead, test your luck, and follow us on these social media handles so that you never miss a hiring update. Have a wonderful day ahead and keep on doing good without any expectation. Good will come back to you. Thank you.